MeMonster.
Chapter 71. Morian Guild, a guild where the prophet belonged to, was one of the largest guilds in Russia. Even though they only had around 200 members around the world, they had considerable numbers of superhumans with a very special ability. Moreover, the guild members of Morian were able to use a very special ability which only known to few. But most veteran hunters were somewhat aware of the fact that their abilities were based on an amulet. However, no one knew where the amulet came from. Avon, the Rainkiller Guild from the US, called us saying they wanted to buy 10 cards, while the Baster Guild of Germany also requested 5 cards, and also I got a call from Korea's Lost Day Guild. Is that so? Avon smiled as she fiddled with the cards. The cards she held in her hand were called talisman in the outside world. You've been getting a lot of calls lately. Is that the proof that more and more people are interested in supernatural ability? Supernatural ability. It was an ability that could be used without having to undergo an ether-enhancing procedure. But until now, it had not received much attention worldwide due to the lack of information about it. However, when Hunter Usiadam's case broke out, curiosity about supernatural ability spread to the public, and only a small fraction of them found out that people from Morian Guild was dealing with that kind of power. Despite only small numbers of people knowing about the amulet, messages had poured in from countless guilds around the world. For now, contact Lost Day first. They are a guild that's been very helpful in the study of magic. Lost Day had a history of providing significant help to the Morian Guild. They gave considerable funding to Morian, then helped them on their research of magic scientifically and introduced them to many people around the world through their numerous connections. As a result, Morian Guild was now much bigger than they were 10 years ago. Morian Guild was now exerting their influence all over the world by using their prophet's ability in the light and monopolizing the amulet in the dark. Because magic is only reserved for us. Recently, a man named Usiadam used a similar power to the amulet, but that would not be better than what they, who have been steadily developing magic while hiding in the dark for years, had. Although they were buried in science in modern times, they were now able to put magic into objects. Until now, they haven't been able to produce magic with a destructive power comparable to that of S-rank ability, but their magic utility could be said to be superior to any other abilities. Miss Avon. Voices flew in from the air. Avon answered without even turning his head. Tell me. The prophet has come. Let her in. Soon the door of the office opened and Yekaterina walked in with staggered steps. Her hair had lost its color and it faded into white around the waist. Her pupils had also lost their light and now she could only vaguely know if there was anything in front of her. Nevertheless, Yekaterina raised her head clearly and made eye contact with Avon. I saw a prophecy. Tell me about it. Something will happen in Seoul, Korea. The exact location of the disaster will be concert venue of the singer Helene. Helene's Yekaterina spoke in a trembling voice. But something is weird. I couldn't hear anything there. There's no shouting or screaming. It was so quiet. Then the impending disaster had something to do with sound. Yekaterina's prediction was outstanding. Avon could see the keyword of disaster in advance. Maybe thousands of people will die. We have to stop it. What's the exact date? I think it will be sooner or later. I see him. Avon smiled after thinking about something for a while. It was a smile with no emotion. We need to find something that relates to sound first. I get it now, please go back. How you must declare your prophecy to the world like usual. Yes, it'll take care of it, so go back, Yekaterina. Still looking uncomfortable, Yekaterina stood there for a long time before eventually realizing that there was nothing she could do and walked away. Right after Yekaterina left the room, Avon started drawing on the card with a pen. Then, a woman in a robe besides her said, Should I inform the emergency response headquarters? No, you don't need to. Is that so? Avon took a pile of papers out of the drawer. It was a paper full of records of Dr. Dimensional returnees or people from Murim had learned very special powers in other worlds, but they were prohibited from using their powers by someone very powerful. But it had been 4 years since they came back from this world. Avon found out that her amulet could temporarily block the ban. She then investigated doctor and contacted several doctor who had severe withdrawal symptoms because they could not use their Mugong and tempted them to use it with her magic. Although the time her amulet could deceive the ban was short, 10 sheets of the talisman, it was difficult to make even one, were made and presented to a doctor in order to acquire the knowledge known as Mugong. But in the end it was stolen. I have to find it. What are you looking for? Sound a more beautiful sound. If that's the case, we'll be able to. No, it's impossible. Avon recalled the last memory she shared just before she left. It wasn't a very pleasant thing. Avon was a magician and businessman who seeked real gains, yet she lost even after investing 10 amulets. It would be better to cause a disaster in Korea and let the Supreme One judge her. That woman was already completely insane, and it was impossible for her to turn around. It's better for her to die. Don't tell anyone about this prophecy. Jeom-hee Ha Sunyoung, thanks to her identity as someone from Murim, things got easier. Maybe the stalker knows how to handle the sound in the first place. It was easy to guess, but there was no way to find out the culprit. It'll be fine. Well, I don't think there's going to be any more leaks in the waiting room. Ha Sun-young said as she touched the temporary soundproof wall installed inside the waiting room. It was not just an ordinary soundproof wall. It was imbued with Yu Xiaodam's magic to block the sound. The stalker would no longer be able to see through this wall from any distance. Of course, she was capable enough to penetrate it from a close distance, but Ha Sun-young wouldn't stay still. She dares to pester Helene. Ha Sun-young said under her breath. She looked as unreliable as ever, but if anything happened right now, she was the only one who could deal with it. But what's wrong with your eyes? Are you wearing contact lenses? Taylor asked when she saw Xiaodam's white eyes while he was working on the soundproof wall with his magic. Something happened. When he lifted his palm and rubbed his eyes, mana flowed into his eyes. Taylor looked surprised when she saw his black eyes had returned thanks to the magic lens. It would be better for him if the magic lens would continue to be maintained. It was very uncomfortable to reactivate it to cover his white eyes every time he finished using magic. But of course, this was considered a small sacrifice for something as grand as an E-rank library. Hey, what are you thinking about so much? Do you have any idea how to catch him? What's the point of worrying about something you can't even detect? As Taylor and Ha Sun-young spoke sequentially, Helene, who was putting on the makeup chair and was getting ready to start the performance, looked at me with anxious eyes. It was definitely true. The opponent was someone from Murim. She was someone who could avoid the detection of S-rank sound waves. Even Ha Sun-young's attack could be deflected even though it is a long-distance attack. It meant that their opponent was at least at around SS rank level. Yu Xiaodam couldn't protect anyone here on his own. There were 2 S-rank superhuman and SS rank martial artists here in this waiting room. By comparison, Xiaodam only had D-rank physical ability, swordsmanship, and magic at the level between 2 and 3 circles. However, just because he didn't have superpowers didn't mean he couldn't think right. First of all, what was the reason this stalker was so obsessed with Helene? The right answer was, you didn't have to know. The second question, how did this martial artist from Murim who used the power of sound escape the influence of the ban? The right answer is, you didn't have to know this either. Not only was it a question that couldn't be answered right away, but perhaps this incident had something to do with the protagonist Lee Dongjun's correction. It was impossible to analyze correction with common sense. It was more important for Xiaodam to worry about the cliché that will take place after that. Lastly, the third question, what kind of story happened here? According to his findings, including the story from Jeom-hee and the Emperor, Dharma dyed his hands with a lot of blood when he was still in Murim. He committed too many murders in the name of justice. Perhaps the theme of his story when he returned to Earth were atonement and peace. The theme of peace would have been carried out through her daughter Shin Haijai and Chen Ma Seol Yungyun. If Lee Dongjun's theme was really mixed with atonement, it is likely that Helene's concert would be a mess. People who couldn't overcome their withdrawal symptoms went on a rampage because of the ban. Of all people, these people would kill countless people and at the same time damage her daughter, Shin Haijai. After arriving late, Dharma would have managed to save Shin Haijai by overpowering the stalker. And maybe he would realize something along the lines of, oh, my wrong judgment has damaged my daughter. After that, he would change his policy or completely lift the ban or whatever, but it wasn't UC Autumn's job until then. It was a story that anyone could think of, so it may be said that it was a nonsensical story. But the fact that Shin Haijai came to see Helene's performance and the fact that someone from Murim was wandering around Helene was enough evidence to support that nonsensical story. After all, the protagonist's story always followed a cliché. In fact, even without the theme of atonement, there was no problem. The most important thing was that Shin Haijai came to see the performance anyway. Oh damn. I am sure we have no choice but to cancel the performance. Unlike the three women who were at a loss because they couldn't see the answer, UC Autumn felt his head was cool. Things are starting to unravel. The plan to hunt the LV-500 protagonist, which had become darker and darker, had now been reignited. For that purpose, UC Autumn presented his thoughts to the girls. He met Helene's, Taylor's, and Ha Sun-young's eyes one by one. Maybe if there is a battle, there will be a lot of casualties. Even if Ha Sun-young fights back, she won't be able to overpower her at once. But due to the nature of the stalker's Yumgong, if a wide area attack occurs, everyone will eventually be damaged. Helene agreed by nodding her head. In fact, she was also one of the superpowers who couldn't control her abilities. In addition, Ha Sun-young isn't allowed to perform recklessly, right? That's a yes. In the end, the only way left was to evacuate all these people. Helene, with a dark look, tried to contact the manager and tell him to cancel the show immediately, but UC Autumn stopped her. If we cancel the show, we can't catch the stalker now, can we? You are right, is there a way? We just need to call the strongest allies who can subdue the Yumgong practitioner. Yes. He looked at three pairs of eyes who seemed to be asking him where such a person was in the world. I mean the Supreme One, the mastermind behind the ban on all Murim people on Earth. You mean the head of Doctor, does that make sense? C. Autumn, the doctor from Murim as well as the Hunter Association were also looking for him, but they can't find them, especially the Supreme One. Don't you know that the Supreme Dharma doesn't follow anyone's orders, C. Autumn? Three of them reacted negatively, but UC Autumn started tapping on his smartphone in response. Whoosh whoosh. Knock knock. Despite the heavy snowstorm, he knocked on the small cabin and heard a voice from inside. Come on in. When he opened the door carefully and went inside, the figure of Seol Youngyeon lying on the sofa as she bit the cherry in her mouth was revealed. She was completely different from the past when she always looked sad. She lay gracefully in a white suit. She was more beautiful, more fascinating than anything else in the world. Moreover, she had a charm that made even the Supreme Dharma, whose mind had never been shaken, look at her twice. She turned her eyes and asked Lee Dongjun. You came earlier than before this time, what's the matter? I brought the horns of Chilgaksu. Oh that. Since Seol Youngyeon said she wanted to have it, Lee Dongjun invested all his time wandering around all the dungeons around the world. In the end, he successfully secured the horn of Chilgaksu. But Seol Youngyeon lifted her white toe and pointed somewhere without even paying attention to them. Put it in that corner. Is it okay if I just put it there? It does not matter. Although she said so intentionally, Lee Dongjun put the horn's Chilgaksu in the corner as Seol Youngyeon told him to do so with a carefree expression. He even put a plastic on top of it, afraid it might accumulate dust. Seol Youngyeon was irritated by the way he pretended to be uselessly sincere, but she didn't show it on her face. If you have anything else you want, feel free to tell me. If it's something I can get, I'll get it. Well, Dharma's eyes slightly turned to the side when Seol Youngyeon's posture collapsed with her hair hanging down the sofa. There was almost no skin being shown since it was obviously a suit covering the whole body, but the fine white ankle, the wrist. No, it was just that her existence itself that was so fascinating that he couldn't keep his eyes off her. Well, what do we do now? Should I just send him back or should we play tricks on him, like what he asked me to? While she was thinking about it, Lee Dongjun took out his smartphone. Quickly, his expression hardened. Bewildered, impatient, and angry. The Supreme Dharma would never show his feelings. Jinmao watched him full of curiosity. Oh my god, has that man finally started to do something? Chinma, who guessed it was time, covered her lips with her sleeve and laughed. Then, Li Dongjun said as he tried to hide his urgency as much as possible. "You'll just go back. Are you bored of me?" "No such thing. Really HMMMM." If it was the usual Seol Youngyeon, she would cold-heartedly react to him. It was the first time that Seol Youngyeon talked to him with such a longing in her voice, so Dharma couldn't easily turn around despite his urgent need. Then another text message came to his smartphone. "You Seodam, please come here now. Some Yumgong practitioner is wreaking havoc at the concert hall, and Shin Haijai is also watching the concert here." "Yeah, I'm bored." And somehow, Chinma's attitude continued to be fatal. It kept Dharma's mind agitated and confused. "Calm down, don't ever lose your composure." "I am calm." "Don't just keep your eyes on it, focus on it, if not you'll lose your composure." "Okay, stop nagging." After breathing heavily and calming his chest, Dharma replied to Chinma. "I am sorry, but I have to go now. I'll come back again." "You are not fun." Seol Youngyeon turned away and Li Dongjun, who was looking at her back with regret, disappeared from the spot. As soon as he was gone, Seol Youngyeon broke out with a grin that she was trying hard to suppress. "I'm getting more and more curious. What's the identity of the man who could easily break down Dharma's pretentious mask that even the people from Murem couldn't do?" Only. Somehow her heart began to race, but she held it in. "You said you'd pick me up." She was waiting for the day he would visit her. Superpower, ability that needs to follow the ether injection process. Supernatural ability, ability that used any other form of energy aside of ether, translated as ideal ability before. Chapter 72. Just a few moments ago, everyone was busy cheering her. They shouted her name together with people beside them. Each of their screams were filled with excitement. They shouted while waving their cameras and glow sticks. It was a beautiful cheer because it was only meant for one person. However, those beautiful and meaningful cheers were nothing but simple noises. Didurek didurek. It was because of a melody that echoed as the stage appeared. In front of every sound she made, any other sound became nothing but noise. The sound of her shoes, the sounds of the hem of her clothes, the sound of her hair flowing, and even her cough while clearing her throat just before she starts singing were all beautiful. Tens of thousands of spectators fell silent at that moment. There were some of them who had previously watched Helene's live performance somewhere else, and there were some who had never gotten the chance to do so, but that didn't matter at all. Because in front of the sound that Helene made, everybody was struck dumb. When Helene opened her mouth, a wave of thrill came out together with the music. When Helene tapped the stage lightly with her shoes, a pink wave spread around her and enveloped the whole stage. It was an etheric reflection light that was produced when she used her sound waves abilities. The light was more beautiful than any other ether reflective light in the world, so it soon became a stage-setting device. She didn't need any other props. Just by standing on the stage, she could become the stage setting, the song, the music, and the microphone. The light purple microphone in the shape of a musical note on her hand was nothing but a gimmick. It didn't make any sound whatsoever. Everyone was left breathless when Helene sang a verse of her song. Someone said, "I listened to Helene's songs with my heart, not my ears." It may sound like a joke, but it was the truth. Helene, a retired hunter who could manipulate sound. She was a superhuman who could decorate her songs with her powers and beautify them. Her sound spread out from the stage. One line touched the audience and then disappeared, and some of it repeatedly made sounds while going back and forth several times, and some other sounds jumped around the stage like naughty children. That's why when someone heard Helene's song, they would feel like they were listening to various songs even though they were only listening to one song. The song I listened to was different from the song that the person next to me heard, and the song that the person sitting next to me listened to was also different from the song the person next to him heard. Helene, the goddess of pop. If the goddess of music descended to earth, would she be able to show a better sound than Helene? Helene tapped the stage with her foot once again, and another round of waves spread out. Helene belatedly realized her mistakes when she saw her fans standing like a statue, as if they were possessed by her singing. Oh no, weekly. She retracted the sounds she used to dominate the stage, and then she finished the highlight part. Wow. People cheered afterwards. Even the usual fan chant, which would go like "Hello, Helene," didn't come out today. That was because it was such an overwhelming performance. It was inevitable since she was nervous. "Helene, I want you to perform like usual. I'd like to ask you to sing a better song if possible, but I can't do that because I am not a singer. I can only ask you not to be nervous." "Will it be dangerous?" "It's okay. If it goes as planned, no one's going to get hurt." Autumn could use better words than hurt. There were so many words to use, such as victim, casualty, or even death. Nevertheless, the reason he chose the word hurt was, "So you were being considerate of me." She had a lot of wounds, and there were even more wounds she had inflicted on others. Because of that, she was very sensitive to different words. She had the ability to hurt others without knowing when she would hurt them. Autumn told her, "I am glad you overcame your trauma," but he wouldn't know the real reason why she was unable to overcome her trauma. So she simply sang for her friends who were still busy behind the stage trying to catch her stalker, and for the sake of her own wounds. As expected, behind the stage, no, above, in a space that no one cared about. The ceiling of the concert hall was wide open. While people were fascinated by Helene's stage, enjoying it like a cool spring breeze, they were busy searching for her stalker. Not a single verse of her song left the venue. This was thanks to Helene's ability. "What is?" Taylor asked Autumn on the radio. "We don't know when we're using normal ultrasound detection, but when Helene truly shows her ability, a perfect sound barrier is formed." "Oh, right. You didn't understand, did you? How about explaining to me rather than mocking me, you son of a gun?" With a smile on his face, Autumn looked around through the megashooter's amplified scope. This amplified scope had a special wavelength and a function to detect mana rather than ether. It was an artifact made with the help of the pot. Helene said that just before or right after her concert is over, she feels the gaze, which is particularly disgusting, but strangely, she doesn't feel it during the performance. That's probably because Helene's superpowers exceed even the ability of the stalker. "Aren't people from Murim always strong?" Murim was the best according to the common sense of the people. 4 years ago, when they first made their appearance in the world, they showed a great destructive power that no superhuman could show. However, the reality was different. Their martial arts were on the same level with superpowers. The pure output of the martial arts itself was far weaker than superpower. They showcased their overwhelming output through the control they exhibited. That's why the stalker from Murim could penetrate even Helene's superpowers, which was the most controlled superpower on Earth. But what will happen once the concert begins and Helene uses her powers to the fullest? Well, the stalker wouldn't be able to pierce Helene's power from far. That's right, if you're someone who is obsessed with her, what will you do to find her when you can't see her? "The crazy stalker is getting close, you mean?" "Yes, just in time, there she is." Taylor didn't say anything after hearing what Autumn said. She couldn't see the stalker because she was mingling in the crowd, but Autumn could see her clearly. A woman was floating in the sky. The villain, Sae Chungryun, was using Taljumhing S+ rank skill. Autumn didn't know about the skill, but it was probably some kind of martial arts technique that utilized the sound waves to step into the air. It was apparent that the villain was overwhelmingly better at controlling sound waves compared to Helene, because even for Helene, the idea of flying freely in the sky with the help of sound waves was impossible. Autumn pointed the mega shooter at the black-haired woman who was looking down at the stage. Her worn-out Chinese clothes were flapping because of the wind. "What about the distance?" 300 meters and getting closer. The wind is about 6 miles per hour. It was important from now on. Autumn already called Lee Dongjun, and he would arrive at the venue at a frightening speed. And because the crisis was made up forcefully, Lee Dongjun would be arriving before the main character correction took place. However, Autumn wasn't satisfied with that. He was going to add another spoonful of crisis on the top of the current crisis. How did the original story end? Perhaps everyone in the venue would either be killed or gravely injured. Perhaps even the stalker herself would become one of the casualties, considering that there was no supporting mark above her head. So, when Lee Dongjun arrives later and rescues Shin Haijai, there would have been no witnesses left. Then what about the story that Yu Xiaodong forcefully changed? He was going to reveal the existence of Li Dongjun to the world. It was not just about revealing it. Yu Xiaodong would prepare a fancy debut stage for him. Sae Chungryeon. She wandered to many different places looking for sound, for a more beautiful, refreshing, purer, clearer, and nobler sound. Whoosh! The cool spring breeze under the night sky brushed past her ears, but unfortunately she could not hear the sound that such wind made. Only the sound that flowed from the stage, which was Helene's voice, could make Sae Chungryeon happy. No one in this wide world, not even in Murim, could make that kind of sound. She was special, so she became more and more obsessed. I can't hear you. Whenever Helene sang, she created a thick, huge sound curtain to prevent her voice from leaking out. So every time she went on stage, Sae Chungjun would move closer and closer towards her. If only I could hear that song. If only I could have that voice. More and more. Closer. Sae Chungryeon reached out towards the curtain laid out by Helene. Her jealousy rose. I can't hear her, the fact that everyone else can hear her songs, the fact that everyone is happy except me. Thump thump. Her jealousy had already been rising steadily since she arrived on Earth 4 years ago. Today it was about to explode. That's right, I am the only one who can listen to it. She could have Helene for herself if she cut the ears of everyone at the venue. Then her songs would only belong to her. A red haze rose from Sae Chungryeon's body. It was her sound waves. With a deep red color, her sound was so cruel and violent that it was as if it was a sound produced by a madman who was playing a piano. She took out a gyukin and placed it on her arms. Long ago, Sae Chungryeon played this instrument more elegantly than anyone else in the world. At that time, she sang a happy song with this musical instrument. However, after being banned by Dharma, she lost all her music. Despite suppressing the ban by using an amulet, she couldn't find her old song at all. So Helene was her last hope. Please let me sing again. The villain, Sae Chungryeon, used the ultimate voice S+ rank skill. The moment Sae Chungryeon spread her red sounds towards the stage. You broke the ban, warrior from Murim. She heard a man's voice. Sae Chungryeon turned her head and her heart sank. At that place, a few meters away from her, the Supreme Dharma stands. The man who had imposed a ban on all Murim people and forced them back to the earth. She resented him so much, but because of his overwhelming power, she didn't dare to ask for a duel. The man, who was called the most supreme man in the world, came to judge her himself. Clouds rose. There was only one person standing in front of her, yet she felt as if a mountain was surrounding the whole place. The performance continued. Helene's songs were melting people's hearts, and Sae Chungryeon's sound was obscured by the music and could not be heard by anyone. In return for breaking the ban, you'll die here quietly. No one knew. In the shadow of the stage, where no one pays attention. I am dying. Sae Chungryeon tried to burst into laughter with that thought. Dang. A gunfire rang out, and at the same time, Helene's music stopped playing, and a light purple curtain that was covering the ceiling was lifted. Why did the song stop at this timing? It didn't matter. The important thing was that everyone at the concert venue was paying attention to the sky. Hi. All tens of thousands of spectators, including Helene, looked at the ceiling of the venue. Everyone saw the scene where the red energy and cloud-like energy collided with each other. What's that? Even before people started asking such questions, someone shouted, "It's a villain, she's here." Then someone else shouted, "It's Hong Yopse, he come to kill the villain." What Hong Yopse? Is that true? In an instant, the venue broke into a massive confusion. Even Dharma looked perplexed. How did someone recognize Hong Yopse except for the fact that he used mysterious abilities like clouds? His face had never been revealed to the world, including his gender or age. But it didn't matter. Only a villain appeared at a concert venue where tens of thousands of people were watching, and Hong Yopse appeared to kill her. What a hero! Tens of thousands of pairs of eyes and cameras faced the sky. A broadcasting camera sent a live feed of Li Dongjun's face across the world. In the camera, Lee Dong-jun was looking somewhere. No, from the moment the gun went off, he never took his eyes off of one person. In his eyes, a man who created the whole situation was looking at him with a relaxed smile. You see Autumn. He was backstabbing him. Chapter 73. Are you talking about the people from Murim? At the same time, far away from the concert venue, Shin Haijai met Ha Sun-young, Daniel, and Lee Do-hak. It was because her guild master, Yu Si-autumn, told her to move away from the concert hall. That's why she followed her fellow guild member Ha Sun-young. However, she suddenly heard a strange story. That's right, Miss Haijai, all of us who are from Murim are under a ban. Are you aware of it? When Daniel asked, Haijai nodded. Oh, yeah, isn't it an unwritten rule not to use Mugong? It's not that kind of restriction. The public does not know about the exact prohibition of dimensional returnee. They only know the gist of it from the experienced hunters or people from Murim. Daniel and Lee Do-hak unbuttoned their shirts partway to show their chest. There, a red tattoo was carved. This is the prohibition that forces all of us to not use our Mugong. If any one of us uses Mugong, they will be killed immediately by the Supreme Dharma. Dha, Dharma, are you talking about my dad? That's right, Miss Haijai, the one who put this prohibition on us is indeed Supreme Dharma, your father. Shin Haijai contemplated for a few seconds before continuing in a trembling voice. Isn't that good if the people of Murim were involved in an accident? Is there any proof that Murim people will always cause an accident, Miss Haijai? We, the people from Murim, are not much different from superhumans. No, you know that the basis of Mahyob starts with a sense of sanity. Rather, we have better self-restraint than other superhumans. Then why did Dad prohibit? She simply couldn't understand. He said he didn't want Mugong to be present on Earth. What? Yes, it was all full of incomprehensible words. Then why will the people who cannot use martial arts return to Earth in the first place? That's impossible. The moment Dharma opened a path to Earth, all the people from Earth in Murim were forced back. Those who still wanted to train their Mugong, those who liked to fight, and those who regards Mugong as their everything. And the ones who had relatives there had a family, even those who had children and teachers and had built their entire life there. All of them were forced to return to Earth. Honestly, the violent incidents of people from Murim on Earth were due to the prohibition. If it wasn't for that, they would have stayed calm. When Shin Haijai looked confused, Lee Do-hak continued. Yes, actually, I wanted to come back to Earth, so I was willing to accept gold or anything. Is that so? Well, I am. I was glad to hear that too, at first. As someone from Murim, I am also afraid about what would happen if Mugong accidentally spread to the Earth. By the way, Dharma, who created the prohibition, was breaking the prohibition himself by teaching Mugong to his daughter, and even worked as a hunter under the pseudonym of Hong Yopsa. If Dharma set an example by following the ban, people of Murim would have lived in silence all their lives. However, he broke all the prohibitions he created. Don't make a connection. Don't teach Mugong to others. Don't use Mugong. Shin Haijai bit her lips tightly. All of this happened because of her. It was all because of her his father began to be ostracized by the people of Murim. If only I hadn't gone. If she hadn't asked him to be her father, if she had not forced herself to become a hunter even though she had no superpower, all of this wouldn't have happened. As Shin Haijai drowned herself in self-criticism, Ha Sun-young finally opened her mouth. Then what will happen now? From now on, we will head to the place where all the people from Murim gather. For the last 3 months, Jeom-hee had been steadily spreading news to all people from Murim all across the world. To those who want to kill the public enemy of Murim, they must head to the Himalayas. In the meantime, no one moved because there was not enough evidence. But now, after hearing the news, they began to move. And I have something else to tell you which is not about prohibition. It's a story about a man named the Supreme Dharma. It was a request from Yu Si-autumn. Shin Haijai was Dharma's daughter as well as his only ally, but she didn't know anything, so what was her crime? Ha Sun-young liked this idea because it followed her code of chivalry. From now on, I'll tell you about what Dharma did to us in the world of martial arts. It will probably be a long story, and y'all have to go a long way. The story of Dharma, who had been hiding from Shin Haijai. The story of a man who stained Murim with blood was now being revealed through Ha Sun-young's mouth. Now, everyone in the world knew that Hong Yop-sa was Lee Dongjun. The camera was still broadcasting Lee Dongjun's face, and for him to see Yu Seodom's relaxed face which was saying, "Can you attack me?" irritated him even more. Suddenly, an explosive energy unseen by the general public could be felt from everywhere. The distance was at least several kilometers, but nevertheless, Lee Dongjun could feel it. The people of Murim on Earth were expressing their anger. How come they are so fast? Lee Dongjun didn't know. For the past 3 months, Yu Seodom had met 31 masters through Jeomhee's help and leaked the information about Hong Yop-sa to them. People of Murim were dubious at first, but what could they do when Yu Seodom presented clear evidence to them? In the end, their pent-up anger would inevitably explode. No matter how strong Supreme Dharma is, it would be too much for him to deal with everyone from Murim at once. No, he could do it, but the current location was not good. I am going to take Haijai and hide for a while. Lee Dongjun, who thought so, tried to find Shin Haijai's energy around the venue. Where is it? Shin Haijai's energy could not be felt anywhere in the venue. Lee Dongjun quickly scattered his power in the air and sensed her presence hundreds of meters away from here. Don't tell me. Lee Dongjun glared at Yu Seodom again. He was planning for this exact moment since the beginning. He recruited Shin Haijai to his guild so that he could do whatever he wanted. Lee Dongjun also did not trust him completely because he was not a fool. He just never thought that Yu Seodom would be this brave. Lee Dongjun grinded his teeth in frustration. Rumble. Dark clouds were gathering. This phenomenon was created because of Mugong. Even after including the harsh storms and the violent burning sun, the masters, including the 3 kings and 6 emperors, were generously releasing their own energy. No way are they coming here. He wasn't sure. But wouldn't they definitely come to Korea if they were that angry? Lee Dongjun began to get nervous. He could deal with all of them, however, unlike the days when he acted recklessly in Murim, now he had something to lose. Shin Haijai, his daughter. If he fought against the people of Murim here, his daughter would no longer be able to have a social life. I have to be patient. I should aim for the next opportunity. But at the least I need to kill Yu Seodom. Even if it caused damage to the surrounding terrain, he had to catch Yu Seodom at all cost. On the other side, Yu Seodom was still smiling leisurely. It was a mystery whether he was confident or stupid. His posture was as if he was taunting Lee Dongjun to kill him in front of all the cameras. You fool! You fool! Lee Dongjun's senses warned him yet again. He couldn't kill Yu Seodom, but the sensation soon disappeared. A crisis occurs to the protagonist Lee Dongjun. The effect of the Skill Sutra of Buddha Dharma SSS plus rank will be reduced due to heavy emotional imbalance. Protagonist Lee Dongjun's Skill Foresight SSS rank is obscured by blurred eyes. Checking the level fluctuation of the main character Lee Dongjun, 518. It was a small change. Yu Seodom still could not beat Lee Dongjun, who was at the level of 500, even though his level was reduced by 18 levels. But, as expected, it was a big hint for Yu Seodom. Zwoosh! The moment Dharma swung his hand like a knife. Emergency Dimensional Escape Protocol is activated. Emergency evacuation to the nearest dimensions with more than 5 times time difference. This action consumes some of your life span. Yu Seodom's astral body disappeared as Lee Dongjun slashed the empty air. After realizing the situation, a lion-like roar burst out of Lee Dongjun's mouth. It was even more destructive than Sae Chungrion's Mugong and Helene's Soundwave's ability. Calm down. Who is who? Don't get angry. Soon I'll get myself together. Let's think calmly. Even now, the people of Murim are coming in from time to time. Now what should we do? We'd better take care of everything. That's not a good judgment. No, this is the only way. Child. But this place is not good. There would be no problem if many people attacked, but after removing all of them, Lee Dongjun had to return to society. Without the people of Murim on Earth, there would be no obstacle in front of him. Nor could you see Autumn dare to escape from his eyes. No matter how he escaped, he couldn't run away for the rest of his life. First, he needed to get away from this place and go around looking for the people of Murim one by one to cut their heads. That was Lee Dongjun's plan. He thought so and thought of a place to hide for a while. Xiao Yungyun. There was only one place that came to his mind. Hi. Yekaterina sank into the floor right after she pulled his hands from the painting. The same future was seen twice. In the painting, the concert venue of the goddess of pop, Helene, was drawn. Just a few days ago, she saw the same venue was ruined by some disaster. However, if she had prophesied and announced it to the world, she could have prevented it. Avon. There is only one reason why the prophecy reappeared. This prophecy hadn't been revealed to the world. Avon, she didn't disclose this prophecy for some reason. But the disaster has stopped. Fortunately, in the future that Yekaterina saw this time, the catastrophe hadn't even started. You see, Autumn. That man had appeared yet again and changed the outcome of the disaster. The question of how was not important, but it was important to note that Avon's judgment could have caused another disaster. It has been like this for a long time. Even when she warned Avon there would be a terrible disaster, Avon would cover a few of the prophecies and only reveal some of it to the world. One day, when she asked why did she do that, Yekaterina heard this answer. "'Cause it's good for me. There is a competitor's headquarters there. There are countries that have been protesting these days, or there is a guild that I don't like." Because of such nonsense reasoning, she covered up Yekaterina's prophecy. "I don't want to do this anymore." What was the use of seeing a prophecy when she had no power to stop it? She rather gave up the ability of seeing the future in exchange for the ability to use magic. If only I could use magic like the other wizards in Morian Guild. The moment she thought about that, boom boom, the sound of footsteps rung across the art museum. Yekaterina's hands shook as she raised her head. She realized that she had seen the prophecy for too long. Oh no, the monster is coming. The art museum was a world inside her dreams. But there was something living there aside from herself. Yekaterina slowly moved her eyes to the end of the corridor. Then their eyes met each other. It was a monster with 3 meters height. Its skin was charred black as if it was burned. The water drops fell from its body as if it had just come out from water, and its eyes were transparent. Crack! The cracking sounds of tearing skin filled the hallway as the monster opened its lips. The monster was closer than ever. It kept moving closer and closer. Kick! The monster bent its eyes in half-moon shape as if smiling, and suddenly it leapt with its one leg towards Yekaterina. Boom! Boom! You have to wake up from your dreams. Yekaterina wrapped her head under her arms, but it was not easy to wake up from a dream. Her heart shook violently, and her hands and feet also trembled uncontrollably. Boom! Boom! No, wake up from your dreams, please. But she couldn't wake up from her dream. Then suddenly, boom! Only someone popped out from the other side of the corridor, closed the door in front of Yekaterina, and plopped down. Wow, damn, I'm so surprised. What in the world was that? Hi. Yekaterina knew this man. A man with black hair and white eyes. You see, Autumn. Hi. The very man she had just seen in the prophecy was now in her dream. Chapter 74. Using Emergency Escape Protocol. As soon as Dharma tried to knock down my neck with his weapon, the world changed. I could feel a throbbing sensation in my body. The recoil from crossing dimensions without even 10 seconds of preparation was quite large. I could feel a throbbing sensation in my head. Emergency Escape Protocol was used. 30 days of life force will be consumed. Move to a dimension with more than 5 times time difference. 10 days of life force will be consumed in exchange for adding these conditions. You have moved to a dimension without a protagonist or has a 90% chance of successful hunting. 30 days of life will be consumed in exchange for adding these conditions. In total, 70 days of my life force was consumed. That's because they risked conditions for emergency escape. But what could I do? It would be better to move to a dimension level with a 90% success rate or a dimension without a protagonist so that I could come back quickly. Nevertheless, in exchange for my life force, I've found out Dharma's last weakness in his life. I would get 70 days worth of life force easily if I successfully hunted Dharma. And if I could escape the danger of dying with just 2 months worth of life force, what a good bargain. I wish I could use an emergency escape anytime. Unfortunately, that's impossible. It can only be used when a main character is at the risk of dying after absorbing a large amount of probability beyond the SSS rank. Also, it is not possible to use it for at least 1 year. Why? The protocol not only consumed your life force, it also consumed my energy. To sum it up, you can't use it because you're tired. That's right. At first, the system appeared to be a divine being. No, in fact, it was indeed a divine being. However, it was silent for a while when he was given the right to freely choose skills after hunting Li Yonjun or shortly after hunting Arash. If the system were a human being, it would have been asleep. This meant that the system also needed to recover for a while once it used excessive force. The more he saw it, the more he wondered about his system, but he didn't ask anything. By the way, where are we? As I looked around, I realized that I was within a structure that was painted in all white. As usual, there was no explanation saying, "At what level are you?" so I don't know where I am or what I am doing. The system had also disappeared, saying that it needed time to figure out where the dimension was. But there won't be any main characters, will there? As far as I know, there was no dimension with a hunting success rate of more than 90%. If there were any, wouldn't you have chosen that kind of place in the first place? No matter how high it is, the success rate was only about 50%. In other words, there was a high probability that the main character did not exist in this dimension. 2 days. In 2 days, I have to go back to Earth, or to be specific, to Himalaya. There was no problem heading to the Himalaya. Another effect of the emergency escape sequence was that I could choose my return location by paying with life force according to distance when returning to Earth. I was going to pay extra life force and move straight to the Himalaya. However, getting out of here was the problem. When hunting a protagonist, one can use all the probabilities that have been absorbed by the protagonist to make a dimension shift without any problems. However, it was impossible to absorb the probability without the main characters. Also, it was impossible to bring probability from somewhere else because I am not the main character. First of all, we need to find out about this place. It was my first time doing this without the help of the system. The tension I felt within my body was the same as when I fell into the tournament and had to hunt the protagonist for the first time. Is this an art museum? As I glanced around while clutching the handle of the ether blade, I saw many kinds of frames hanging on the wall. Inside the frame, the canvases were all white without any pictures or photos, and when I put my palm on it, a warning message suddenly came up. Skill library of the White Witchy will be activated. You do not have access to the picture, you cannot verify it. What? What is this? So this frame was also a magical thing. I remembered the word access only appeared when I approached a higher rank library. But what is this now? Then the system message of the Protagonist Hunter appeared. Checking out the Protagonist Yekaterina's Nightmare Art Museum URS rank skill. Crazy URS rank. Is this rank that common? Even the skill to turn back time like an infinite loop was a URS rank. I thought that URS rank skill would have an effect similar to creating a world, but why did this museum rank so high? Skill library of the White Witchy has been activated. It has been confirmed that this place is an imaginary world related to the witch's prophecy. What prophecy? I am getting more and more worked up. I can't believe the place of URS rank skill is related to prophecy. But you can't see anything, can you? You do not have access. I touched the frame while looking at the emerging message, and I felt a sense of incompatibility. Hold on, did you just say protagonist? The dimension where I landed with an emergency escape was a world where I could hunt the protagonist with more than 90% chance. In my memory, there was no such world, so I would have moved to a world without a protagonist. However, if a protagonist exists. Dung dung. Dung 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 dung. Then there was a sound of something bouncing on the floor from the far side of the hall. I quickly turned alert and looked towards the sound. There, a bizarre-looking woman with a huge face and one leg with burnt skin all over her body was approaching me quickly. And the hashtag that was on her head was, "I have a nightmare every day." Hashtag fear. Hashtag thriller. Hashtag mystery. Hashtag nightmare. Hashtag despair. Protagonist Arena. Level 519. I tilted my head and turned it toward the creature. The creature made an eye contact with me. 519. I tilted my head and turned it toward the creature. The creature made an eye contact with me. 519. The moment I blinked at the thought of seeing something wrong. Dung dung dung. Dung dung. It began to run towards me at a speed faster than the speed of sound. Didn't you say the success rate was 90%? I didn't have to look back. This was a fight that could never be won. Fortunately, there was a white door right in front of him, and when he jumped there and closed the door with a board and locked the door, the protagonist no longer followed him. Oh my God, I am so surprised. What in the world is that? You said you were the main character. Hasn't the protagonist always been blessed with all probability whatever you do, you'll succeed, you'll achieve victory? He's the kind of person who eats cliché. The protagonist is not a probability-absorbing person. She's a protagonist that didn't need to be hunted. So she was excluded from the list of requests. Oh, is that so? Indeed, there are many genres in the world, and I thought it might be possible to have a protagonist from a horror movie. You see, Autumn. Hi. When I heard a woman's voice from behind my back, I quickly turned and pointed the ether blade towards her direction. There, a small woman wearing thin white clothes was sitting down. She had white hair and transparent eyes that seemed to have no vision. I was surprised by her mysterious beauty for a moment. But then the creature stormed the door, and when that crazy prick popped in, I hurriedly put her on my side and flew forward. Crazy hey, pot, do something. Just a snail tilde. You worthless spirit, get to work. I took out all the grenades I had inside my inventory and threw it to the floor. With her magic, the pot rearranged the grenades all over the place. The first few explosives directly hit the creature, but soon the flower pot changed the target of the bomb and exploded the floor or wall of the art museum. The decision was made to disturb the creature's way. It was a very wise decision, but the moment I thought I couldn't do damage properly. Suddenly the monster screamed and stopped chasing. Oh no. But there seemed to be no damage at all. So I quickly scanned the monster, but no matter where I looked, I couldn't find any wounds. This really. Just in case, when I rolled all the bombs into one place, the grenades exploded and made a crater in the floor. Soon after, the monster began to roar as if it were more painful than earlier damage. If the museum is damaged, the monster will also be damaged. A ray of light passing through my head. After taking all the bombs out of the inventory and throwing them everywhere, I went rampage with a mega shooter. Haha, you ugly monster, go to hell. Perhaps because of the concentration of saturation on the floor, the monster crashed into the hollow floor, and I reached out to the inventory to throw some bombs at it again. But at that moment, I heard stop it. The woman who was hanging on my side screamed as if she was going to be torn. When I looked at her hurriedly, I saw a lot of tears around her eyes. No, why are you, Then a hashtag floating on her head comes into my view. I have nightmares every day. Hashtag fear. Hashtag thriller. Hashtag mystery. Hashtag nightmare. Hashtag despair. Protagonist Arena. Level 6. The same tag I saw on that monster existed on the woman in front of me. What is this all about? There are two protagonists. But as far as I knew, when there were more than one protagonist in the same world, the world entered the epilogue phase. There is only one main character in this world. However, one person became two due to the time warp. What? I checked the name and level again. Even though they both had the same name, the level of the woman before me was strangely low. She was so weak, she wasn't even at the level of an average person. No, there was one more question other than that. How do you know my name? She's only level 6, but I could never let my guard down, because I had also hunted many high-level characters with low-level bodies. She grabbed her throbbing head and wept, then slowly came down to the floor. The lower floor was a very wide space. The screams of the monster couldn't be heard anymore. The woman named Yekaterina slowly took a deep breath and looked up at me. I have no choice but to know. I've seen you. What, it's your first time seeing me? No, it's your first time seeing me. What are you talking about? She staggered up from her seat and slowly reached out to me. I tried to point at Ether Blade because I was wondering if he was trying to attack, but Yekaterina stumbled and reached out in a strangely defenseless manner, but my mind was confused because she seemed to be asking for help. You see Autumn, Hunter, you see Autumn, I've really wanted to meet you. Who the hell are you? I am the only prophet on Earth, Yekaterina. What? Only then did I remember the name Yekaterina. Wasn't this the kind of name that was commonly used in Russia? It was so pretty and cute that it was a popular name. Yekaterina. Are you an Earthling? That's right, you speak like you're a not. I am also an Earthling, but no way, so this is Earth. Before I knew it, Yekaterina reached out her hand and stroked my cheek. It was a careful touch, as if she wanted to check if I was real or not. No, this place is inside my dream, so I want to ask, how did you get here? So I was just passing by. Only passing by, so do you know how to get in and out of here? I know why. Oh. When my words fell, Yekaterina held my hand in her white skinny arms and shouted desperately. Well then, get me out of here, please. Please, I don't want to stay here anymore. That monster is trying to kill me. However, her words sounded very strange to me. If you're talking about the monster just now, that's you in the future, isn't it? Why did her future self try to hurt her past self? Chapter 75. Looking up at Protagonist Yekaterina's Museum of the Nightmare Skill. The activation conditions are falling asleep. As soon as she falls asleep, she will be summoned into this world. However, the condition of sleep was a problem itself. Assuming death is also part of sleep. What if her body does its part and falls into eternal sleep? Will she never wake up again? That's right, she'll be stuck here forever. But that was the end. Also, this world-time axis has been distorted due to excessive probability caused by the witch's unique ability. The future and the past are mixed together. That is why the witch of the future, who lost her body and fell into eternal sleep, and the witch of the past, who did not lose her body, can coexist in this place. Perhaps this world, if left alone, will not collapse. Because that's the epilogue of this story. The witch of the past will eventually die and become the witch of the future. Then she'll seek for the witch of the past to regain her body, and the witch of the past will become the witch of the future in due time after she dies while running away all her life. It will be repeated countless times. That is the never-ending end of this world. Death is not a way out. There was no way for the Yekaterina to get out of here. Is that true? Yekaterina asked me with trembling eyes. She was frightened. She couldn't believe that that terrible and frightening monster would be her future. Her body was shaking like a leaf blown by the wind. She looked very pitiful. I haven't hunted the protagonist for a long time, but she was the most unusual character among them. She doesn't have to be hunted. What should I do now? It was her fate to wander around this museum for eternity. It was impossible to even die in this dream world. I couldn't physically kill Yekaterina either. Even if I shot her in the head 100 times with my gun, she would eventually wake up and go back to this place once she fell asleep. In fact, there was no need to think hard to help Yekaterina here. She was the protagonist of this world in the first place. Nothing could go wrong if I decided to kill her here. But was there any merit in hunting a level 6 protagonist? It would be better to hunt the level 500 Yekaterina from the future. But it was impossible to catch that monstrous future witch. In the end, my only choice was to spend some of my lifespan and run away from the Nightmare Art Museum. By the way, it's a shame that Yekaterina is the only prophet on Earth. The prophet Yekaterina belonged to the Morian Guild. It was such a huge guild that everyone in the world knew about it. It was natural for them to have the only prophet of Earth. If he stopped the cycle of nightmare here and saved Yekaterina, wouldn't the Morian Guild give him something in exchange? How high are you in the Morian Guild? An executive, a senior officer, or a VIP? She was a prophet, so I thought she must be treated very well. No, I am just being treated as a vending machine in the guild. What? Since I awakened the power of prophecy at the age of 14, I have never taken a step outside. The amulets they set around me are a prison in the name of protective shields, and there are countless female hunters watching me. Seriously, they treat a prophet like that? Yes. She clenched her fist in frustration. If I could use magic just like her. Magic. It was a word that I didn't expect to hear from someone from Earth. And then a message from the system popped up. We've figured out how we got into this dimension. Your skill library of the White Witch and the Art Museum of the Nightmare are linked to the same type of world. That's the reason why we could flow into this place. So that's why. The White Witch's library is also one of the witch's mental worlds. This Nightmare Art Museum, too, would have been the mental world created by the witch. So we are stuck here because of the condition of the closest dimension. Oh wait. Both dimensions are linked. That's right. You brought me here because I have a 90% chance of hunting the protagonist, right? Based on the fate, you can indeed hunt the protagonist of this world with a 99% success chance. I swallowed my saliva and looked up, calling the Library of White Witch. Then, as usual, the gate of the Library of the White Witch appeared in front of me. It was just like usual, but it was usually only a part of my mental world, while invisible to others. Hi. As if she could see the White Witch's library I opened, Yekaterina was surprised. What the hell is this door? It's our escape. Yes. However, the gate was the manifestation of my own mental world. Could Yekaterina enter this place? I asked her a question because I was not sure. Touch the door. It's soft. Yekaterina can touch my White Witch's library. As soon as I confirmed that, I opened the door and exposed the inside. Oh. Seeing the mysterious space, Yekaterina walked towards it while exclaiming, Yekaterina, that's the way out. What here? She entered the library and smelled the scent of the book. It seemed to feel darker today. Yekaterina looked around the library with her mouth wide open, and she seemed to rush somewhere right away, but there was something she had to deal with before that. Yekaterina, if you close this door, you won't be able to go back to this museum. And perhaps you will lose your prophetic ability, your ability to do everything. That's right. Even now, I could tell because my client was constantly sending messages. That's a great way. This world has an infinite repetition of time. However, if you send the object of the repetition into another world, the loop will stop and the epilogue will be stopped as well. This would also count as the death of the protagonist. The moment the protagonist went into another world, they'll lose their ability as a protagonist. The ability to see a clear future in exchange for being trapped inside a never-ending nightmare in the art museum. However, if she ran away from the museum, she would lose all her ability as a protagonist, or in her case, her prophetic ability. Was Yekaterina okay with that? That's why I asked her another question. It's what I've been hoping for all my life. Since her first awakening at the age of 14, she had been a prophecy vending machine. She lived a life that was only good to draw out just predictions. But I don't want to live that kind of life anymore, she said as she looked straight at me with eyes as clear as glass beads. I've been unhappy ever since I got this prophetic ability and got to see the past and the future. But if I could open my eyes and see the present, I am confident I'd even dedicate my soul to it. Yes, but anything wrong? Perhaps the reason she said, I am confident I'll even dedicate my soul, was to express her will. You really have to offer your soul? Yes. I explained again when Yekaterina was visibly embarrassed. The art museum was your imaginary world and I was in your imaginary world, but this place is my imaginary world. In other words, you've come into my mind. Yes. If you run away from the gallery and get stuck in my library, it means your soul will forever be trapped inside my mind. Yes, she doesn't even know who I am. Can she leave herself to it? I said with my palms slightly on the door of the library. From the moment I close this door, you will definitely enter my world if you fall asleep. If I want, I can lock the door of the library tightly so you won't wake up, or I can torture you in my space. In other words, it means that you are bound to me. But are you confident that you will give up the power of prophecy and devote your soul to me? However, Yekaterina seems like she didn't have such worry in the first place. I don't care if you ray the devil and this world is hell. I was already in hell every single day here. Is there anything worse than that? Step. Yekaterina approached the door and closed it herself. She turned her head, looked up at me, and smiled brightly. Now I won't have nightmare anymore. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.